Hey everyone, and Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays. We're almost there. So I have a very cool project that we're gonna hustle. We're gonna hustle to get this one done. That way you guys have time to make your own and give them out to family and friends. So I already saw like the chat happening. I'm a little late today because the laptop here, I booted it up and it was like, oh, I'm doing an update right now. Like, skedaddle along. So I had to wait for that to be done because you know how it is. When you're mid-update, you're like locked out. You're locked out. Your house could be burning. You need to like send some code. It's done. You gotta wait. So I saw a bounty hunter, first one in, and he's like, oh my gosh, this is happening at noon Eastern. Yes, I'm on the East Coast right outside of Philadelphia. So welcome, Bounty Hunter Breaks. And we also have Silvio from Brazil. He is saying, Rachel, all cool? And he said, he missed me. Então Silvio, eu também senti a tua falta. Então pula no Discord. Depois de tudo isso, a gente continua discutindo todos os projetos. So welcome to my Brazilian viewers. And Kurt Bending is here. He's like, hi there. Hi, Kurt. Nice to see you again. And I believe Kuzer Customs was around. Oh, I don't have my mouse to scroll through my chat, but he was singing a happy little song. Oh yes, Feliz Navidad. Prospero ano e felicidad. Okay, I know what you guys are saying. Like, yes, singing is not your career calling. Yeah, so stick with the code and the building. And you heard my dog. Even my dog was like, knock that off. So, Bounty Hunter is wishing me a happy Festivus. Yes, Festivus for the rest of us. So, yeah, I gotta catch up on all those episodes now that they're, fully available to view. Craig Dickerson is here. He says, hi, Rachel. Merry Christmas, everybody. Yes, Merry Christmas to all of you guys watching and all of you guys still jumping on. Larry Gallant is here, and he's saying that I am very festive looking. Yeah, I'm rocking my little snowman, but that ain't festive enough because... Oh, I gotta duck down for you guys to see this. Oh yeah, I am ready for some snow, some white Christmases to be happening. But I don't know about you guys, we've got no snow. It's been warm, it's been rainy, like in the 50s. So I would gladly convert that over to snow. So yes, I'm like, the least I could do, at least get in the spirit, and hopefully the weather will catch up. It's got 2 weeks to catch up, so it better catch up. And Kurt is saying Merry Christmas to one and all. So yes, in the spirit of like the holidays, I figured we skew this project more holiday time. And a lot of you guys jumped on Discord with some very cool ideas. I was very tempted. Mostly having to do with projections. Can we make like a projected Christmas tree or something that uses fog or steam to project a Christmas tree? And then I jumped in, with Pepper's ghost ideas, the same way they do with Disney. And probably the best example is the Haunted Mansion, my favorite ride. They use a lot of just old-fashioned Pepper's Ghost. But because of course it's Disney, it's rigged a little more high-tech, but the old-fashioned principles are the same. Now, I've been wanting to do a projection project for quite some time. I have one in the back of my head, but I just haven't gotten around to it. And it is slated. We're gonna get to that pretty soon. So I figure, you know what? Rather than rush through a very cool projection project because the holidays are coming up, why don't we put that like for, maybe first thing next year or very early next year and do a bigger project on it and focus on something that we can do kind of quick and that maybe you guys can give out as gifts to your family and friends. So I know what you're looking at here, like gifts, like this looks ugly, so we're gonna try and fill it with more Christmas cheer for our prototype. And then when we come back, we're actually gonna all be music composers. We are gonna be composing Christmas music using a buzzer, and then for our final stream we're gonna be putting all this together so you guys can give these out as gifts. We're gonna do all that before Christmas. So enough, we're running out of time here. We gotta get going with this. So Steve is saying, Steve Murinus or Marinus, I apologize if I'm mispronouncing your last name. He's saying, love the sweater. Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas to you too. Larry is saying, agreed. Now, during my whole rant there, I'm going to assume, and you can correct me in the chat, I'm going to assume that you're going to agree with me that we should reserve the projection project to do a much larger scale one for later. If that's wrong and you're agreeing with something totally different, let me know. And Carl Rigstad is here. Merry Christmas. The sweater brings out the color of your hair and your beautiful face. Yes, we all have beautiful faces for the holidays. We're all like this, the whole time. And then, like, if you keep going, it gets always a little creepy. Like, hi guys, Merry Christmas. Yeah. So it reminds me of working at the mall where you start with the Christmas music and you walk into work, high school and stuff. You're working the mall jobs. And by the end of the day, you're like, somebody kill Rudolph, all that Christmas music over and over again. So we're going to do controlled Christmas music, not in this stream because this is kind of like the prototyping stream. So let's take a look at what I have here. And the big idea for this project is, what if you can make an ornament or maybe your home Christmas display have something that the internet can control? So for instance, if you were to make a bunch of copies of a Christmas ornament, give them out to all your family and friends, and then they communicate with each other. So you can send all of the other ornaments a lighting pattern, maybe make them all play a song. So that way people know that you were thinking of them, and they in turn can do the same to you. So any input that they do on this Christmas ornament, whether it be through, probably a button, then it spills it out to all the rest of them. So how do we do this? And that's what we're trying to figure out. Now, normally we've worked with the Arduinos, mostly Arduino Uno, but most of what we've done applies to all the other boards. We're going to be working with a totally new board now. And I'm going to switch views while checking out your commentary there. And George Pappas is here. He's saying hi from Nantucket. And Larry is saying, yep, let's take time on the projection project. I think so, because we can do something like really, really cool. Is the camera real low? My head's getting chopped off a little. So yeah, we're going to go with like some head choppage for this stream. And then let's I guess we should get started. And wow, that's really mini vision here. Like, so unless you guys are like Superman or you have bionic eyes, that's gonna be a little bit tough to see. So let's just do this. And so you can see that I've kind of built one here, and we're gonna kind of intro this new board. And this is an ESP6288 Node MCU, and I said it very robotically. And what this is, it's a Wi-Fi enabled device. Now you could do this with Arduino, but this board is much more specialized for internet projects like this, like internet communication style projects. So you can wire this in a way that, say, your water heater leaks. It can send you a text message. Or maybe you have it wired to the cookie jar and you don't want anybody stealing your cookies. And when somebody opens the lid, it'll send you a text message. So there's a bunch of different ways that you can use this to communicate. You can have it send tweets out. You can have it send you an email based on different inputs. So for today, we're actually only gonna scratch the surface with this stuff. This is a very awesome, just beginner project. So there's many deeper levels of what we can do, and we'll get to that, but for this project, like how we started with Arduino, we're gonna start at the beginners and then work our way down. So getting back to our board here, and Jim Frozen is here. Merry Christmas, Jim. Marcos Casar is here. Let's see, from Brazil. And, he's saying, to wish the Brazilians a happy or a Merry Christmas. So, for the Brazilian people watching, oi brasileiros, então, o Natal está chegando, a gente está fazendo esse projeto em tempo, assim vocês podem copiar e fazer para os teus amigos, tua família e dar tudo para eles. Aí, ele comunica um com o outro, então, a tua esposa, ou teu filho que talvez mora numa outra casa, sabe que você tá pensando deles. Então, Feliz Natal, todos os brasileiros, está chegando. Então, a gente vai correr aqui com pressa para acabar esse projeto em tempo. All right. And Chevy Tom is here. Hi, Chevy Tom. And Larry is saying, alert me if the fridge dies. Oh, it happened recently for him. Oh, that's a bummer because you lose so much food and all those precious meats. Oh, I love me my steak and some nice barbecue chicken. So yes, we can't have that happening. So I'm just gonna put this guy aside for now, and we'll get to kind of like what this guy is and kind of look at this board here in a little more detail. And let's see if we can get the camera to focus up nice on it. So you can see it kind of looks like an Arduino, but in miniature, form. It's got a microprocessor, a voltage regulator, a little, whoop, I broke it. No, I'm just kidding. Hopefully I didn't break it. Oh, we got an antenna here. And you'll notice that normally with our Arduinos, we program it through a USB cable. The same is true here with a micro B USB cable. So when you program this, you got to make sure that the cable is power and data, so it's it's very similar to the cell phone cables that you use. See how tiny that is? You'll also notice two buttons. One is flash and one is reset. Now, unlike Arduino, which you just kind of like plug and play into the software and you start messing with it, there's a lot of different manufacturers that make similar Wi-Fi boards, also called ESP6288. So this particular one is a node MCU, and they all vary in ranges in terms of how hard they are to program. Now, this one already comes with header pins, which is, makes our lives easy. You can also get them without header pins. You can also get them, so you can use your DuPont connectors. So I figured this one's easy to stick into a breadboard and also a PCB board later on. So it's got a variety of digital pins. The big difference is that it outputs only 3.3 volts. So whatever you connect to it, it's gonna send out 3.3 volts. If you need more voltage, you're gonna have to step up that voltage yourself within the circuit. So, you can also use the Arduino programming platform that we've been using to program it. So it makes it pretty easy. So I have a diagram here that I found on components101.com here. So you can see the big shiny thing in the middle. That is your ESP chip. Then you have your antenna, like I pointed out. You have your 3.3 voltage regulator, the onboard LED, just like the Arduino has, so you can see whether or not things are transferring, if they're uploading. You can use that onboard LED just kind of as confirmation that your code or your buttons are working. The flash button and the reset button, and of course our micro USB port. So the big thing here is when you plug it into your computer, any board that you buy is going to have a specific set of instructions on how to properly flash it and get it ready to talk to your Arduino and or your computer. So some of you may have to install additional drivers, and because it's different for every board, we're not gonna go through like the painstaking process, and it's not really painstaking. The thing, if you're a beginner, I highly advise against buying the module only. See how this is an entire development board. If you buy the tiny module, they're great because they're space savers, but you need a special cable. It's a little tougher to access all the features. So this is a real beginner-friendly one. And for an even more beginner-friendly one, there's a company called Adafruit that makes a Huzzah feather board. And it is specifically designed so you can mix and match and plug in different components, and they're already ready to talk to each other. But that one board will cost you about 20 bucks. I say it's worth it for the easeability. I would say if you don't want to go that way, I got 3 of these for like 14 bucks. You can do many more projects, and it is also very, very easy to program. Just follow the instructions that come with it step by step. Some boards are quite complex where you have to push the reset and or the flash in a specific sequence every time you want to upload new code, and that's great if you do this day in, day out. Me, that we just kind of play around with some projects here and there. I like something a little bit easier. Now, the Adafruit one, another great thing about it is that you can power it through the USB port, like we've done a lot of our prototypes. But if you want to hang it on a tree, you are going to have to connect a battery through one of these power pins right here. There's a VIN pin, either located here or here. Don't ask me to read this stuff on the board. Hello, people, look at how tiny that writing is. So I've been using a diagram and just counting the pins because, my mature eyes, That's pretty much what they can handle. You can make it battery powered, or you can power it through this USB port. But like I was saying, the Adafruit one already has like somewhere like in here a little clip where you can plug in a LiPo battery already. So that's kind of a nice, step saved. But I figured this is a great all-around board. Same features, does the same thing. And, you can make many more projects. So let's take a look at some of these pin situations. So you can see, I'm not going to go through like all the pins. Any of the pins that say GPI, and then a number, that's a digital pin that you can plug into. So you can see it's got about 16 pins, I think. You can see all the red 3.3 volt areas that you can tap into, plug in components for power, the black boxes for ground. And then there's, a couple other functionalities that we're not really going to get into for this project, but for future projects, we'll go ahead and revisit. So I found it way easier to have this diagram in front of me as I was connecting this, because unlike Arduino, when I say I'm going to plug this into pin 10, well, the pin is actually labeled 10, so it makes things easier. But if I tell you to plug something into pin 5, well, on the board, the lettering actually says like D2 or D1. It's not going to correspond to the actual number of the pin. So you kind of have to use a diagram like this to know that pin 5 is that pin second from the top on the right-hand side there. So, just keep this diagram handy. It is readily available online, so it makes things, pretty easy. So what we're gonna try and do is, I've already made one device, and we're gonna try and duplicate it, make another device just like it. And when I press a button, will they communicate online? So one button will light up the LED, and then the other button will make the buzzer go off. Like, will they talk to each other? And that's what we're gonna try and figure out and get it done. So let's get started building. And this one's already been properly flashed. It's been hooked up to the computer, so that way it can talk to each other now. So it's set up to already take code. So let's go ahead and kind of mimic what we have going on here, and then I'll kind of explain what we're doing as we do it. And I'm going to fire up the code next to me to make sure that I'm plugging everything into the right pin. I can use this as an example, but just to also confirm that I did it, correctly here as well. So let's log in here, and we'll go kind of step by step on how we get them talking to the internet. What we've been used to doing is downloading code or uploading code to an Arduino, and once the code is stored in the microchip, it just does its thing, but it doesn't communicate with other Arduinos unless it's hooked up to them. So here we're gonna get them communicating through the air. All right, so wow, this thing really did do a restart. All right, so while that boots up, we can get started here, and I'll put that guy here as a reference. Get this guy out of the way. So, well, I can also show you how this works. So now one of these cables is data and power, and one of them is not. So let me not confuse. So I'm gonna go ahead and just use the computer to kind of power this guy. And so what I did, and I'm gonna plug him in here. Gotta make sure it's the right, the right orientation. All right, and you saw that the little light go off. So the idea here is if none of these kind of came off, is that I coded it such that, pretend this is an ornament, and this is the ugliest looking ornament that you guys have ever seen. I get that. It really, really is. So the first button here, if we press it, it would be nice to maybe flash some lights on all the ornaments that we make copies of. So right now we have one light, because if we can get the one light to flash, we can certainly multiply it by many lights. So, just for prototyping purposes. Alrighty, and that's communicating over the internet. So it's not just taking it from the code. And then if I press this, the buzzer goes off. All right, I know what you guys are thinking. This is the worst, Christmas ornament ever. Can you imagine just handing this to someone and being like, oh, I'm going to send you some love by pressing this button. So when you see this red light, you know, and it's a flickering LED, I stepped it up. I didn't use no solid red LED. Like, I'm like, oh, I'm going to step it up for this project, use a flickering one, you know? And so the light flickers. Theoretically, if I build a copy, if I press this light, all the lights are going to flicker. And if I press the buzzer, all of them are going to buzz. And that's really not very Christmassy. And that's where we're just going to get these two prototypes talking to each other. And if we can get them talking to each other, the next stream is we're going to expand on this and maybe get this buzzer to play a Christmas song. Because by varying the frequencies, you can actually hit notes. And so if you haven't done so already, get on Discord. You're going to see a channel that says like IoT Xmas Ornament. And I put a poll up there asking you guys your favorite Christmas song. And for the next stream, we're going to compose this Christmas song together via code. So, you know, don't miss your chance of naming your favorite Christmas song. We're going to take the winner and code it together. So Bounty Hunter Breaks is saying piezo buzzers are annoying, aren't they? Aren't they? So we're going to pick frequencies that are less annoying. And when they play a song, it's a lot like those little Christmas cards you open up and they're like, dee, 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 dee. Okay, I'm going to try and like cut out the singing. It's pretty bad. So the idea is though, if we can get the piezo buzzer working with the copy and the lights, we know that whatever code we upload, it'll work on all of them. So rather than coding a big complex thing, then rebuilding it here and finding out nothing works, let's start with the basics, getting it working, and then we can expand on both. So I'm going to go ahead and undo this guy, and we'll look at the code too once we get these both working. So we're just going to copy here what we've done. All right, so let me see if I can line them up in a way that like we can see them. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make this kind of easy to access, you know, and that's one of the reasons I have this kind of facing, you know, that way so I can plug it in. And I might have to stand up for this one and look. And I'm going to straddle both sides of the breadboard. Now, these two sides don't communicate. You know, these communicate, but we're going to use both sides. And one of the reasons is to kind of spread apart all the wires so it's easier for you guys to see what's going on. So let me move this guy kind of out of the way. I need some hand space. Working. All right, now the more pins there is, the more that you have to kind of rock it kind of a little bit back and forth gently to get it to seat. And it's also much more difficult to remove. There we go. So I have that nicely seated. So we have that copied. And one of the things we want to do is get both sides communicating. So like I did here, why don't we bridge power to power and ground to ground? So all I'm going to do, not with the yellow wire, but with this red wire, I'm going to go ahead, and it doesn't really matter, you know, which pin. And you can use DuPont connectors for illustration purposes or demoing. I actually like to use these because they kind of sit low to the ground, you know, or low to the table. And it's a little easier to see where they're going than the DuPont ones that loop up and over. It's a little tougher to follow with the eye. So all I'm going to do is pick any hole along this red here. And then I'm going to pick any hole along the red here. And we'll match them up just like that. So now it's power to power. So both sides now are getting power. And we're going to do the same thing now with our ground. We're going to hook up the grounds from both sides. So anything along this blue rail here. And then we'll just stretch him over there. All right, so now both sides can talk to each other in terms of power and ground. All right, so from our board now, and this is where, all right, gotta put the eyeballs on, people. Gotta put the eyeballs. So now we are going to provide, where'd it go? Over here. Power. So here we see like a, well, you can't see, and barely neither could I. It says 3.3 volts. So we want to go ahead and provide this 3.3 volts to our power rail, just like I did here. So we're going to repeat and do this on that side. And to be able to do that, I'm actually going to turn this and count the pins because I can't read the pins from the top. Oh, heck no, I'm not even going to try. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it's the 5th one. So if I turn this way and allow it to focus, all I'm doing is just counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and it's this one. Oh, my board. If you'll notice, this board is more centered. This one kind of got off to the side. Oh, now you guys are going to see the pain that it is to remove this. I need to shift it over by just 1 pin. And you just have to be careful not to lift it by the USB connector and mostly by the board. So you start to, as you rocked it in, you got to rock this thing out. And I try and do it without using like a screw, you know, like a screwdriver or anything. And let's just pop him back in, and he shifted 1 pin. I was like, wait a minute, I don't have enough pinholes. So Bounty Hunter has a good idea. He says to reduce the chances of shorting out your power supply rail, I would move the ground back away from the row where you looped your power wire here. So it's Christmas time. My little wires are getting a little friendly, you know? And so what happens is you can see how much is trimmed off, you know, the insulation. So theoretically, what could happen is they both can kind of touch, you know, which you don't want. So here I am trying to be like all friendly, and you know, we're gonna lose some, we're gonna have these wires lose some Christmas cheer, and that is a good idea. So instead, you know, just even moving them a couple holes down, you don't have that, you know, that potential as much anymore. So we're gonna move this guy down here, and he can be like, you know, they can get to know each other. If a mistletoe happens to happen, you know, we don't want to, or in other words, we don't want a mistletoe situation and then both of them get shorted out. You know, no kissing. No kissing for the wires. So went ahead and did that, and we can repeat Bounty Hunter's idea here. And I'm just going to move this little guy here and move this little guy here. There we go. This one makes more of a tongue shape than this one. All right, so let's go back and put our 3-volt power here, and then anything that connects to our power rail, we're gonna get 3 volts from. So glasses, and I think it was the 5th pin, because if we look at where the power is, on the left side, the board is like flipped upside down. So on the left side where it says 3.3 volts, that's the one I'm going for. So you can count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yes, it is the 5th pin. So there's much counting. And Bounty Hunter's like, oh, I feel safer now. I feel safer. Let's remove the mistletoes from the wires kissing each other. All right, so I'm gonna do the same thing here where I'm just gonna count the pins. It's so much easier. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now this indeed does say 3.3, but guys, really, can you really read that? I mean, points to anyone who can really read what the heck that even says. So I'm just going to kind of put this where it naturally reaches. And I'm going to plug it right in there. There, so that's now attached to our power rail. And I'm just going to double check that that is indeed the 5th one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yes. All right. So now we have provided 3.3 volts to the entire board. And let's go ahead and do the same with the ground. That way everyone has a common ground. So I'm going to pick a ground on this side. I can certainly pick the ground on this side as well, but just to kind of keep things visually separate. Now, when we do this on the PCB board, we might change our mind, but to keep it like visually easy for us all to see. And I think ground is the 2nd one, but we'll double check with our pin diagram here. Ground, yes, and I'm reading from the bottom left, you know, because the board is flipped around. So yes, it is the 2nd one. And I'm going to kind of like get my face up in here. All right, yeah, to make sure. All right, so now let's connect our LED, which is on, and I'm just kind of cheating here. Let me open up. I have my Arduino sketch, because I figure as we do this, we can double check that I have all of the things correct, all the pins correct. So let's see the prototype. take a look at you. All right, so you're ready. All right, so the pin, I believe, the LED is hooked up to number 15. And number 15 is, let's see, pin 15 is on the right-hand side, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 from the bottom. So if we flip this board, it's going to be 5 from the left top. Oh, it's so confusing. I should have flipped this board around to make our lives a little bit easier. So I'm just going to double up the pin here. Long leg of the pin, of course, going into our number 15. And during my talking, I've totally forgotten how many pins. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, I'm going to do that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now you'll notice that the heck, Rachel has no resistor going to her LED. Because this is only 3.3 volts and we're doing some quick tests, and the space is kind of tiny, I figure I'm gonna lose the resistor for now. It's not really gonna do anything. In our final, of course, we'll put one in. But we've done a lot of the LED style stuff, so we all know kind of how that works. And Bounty Hunter is saying, looks like pin 9 on the bottom half could also be used to connect ground. Yes, if I was reading the pin out correctly. Yes, that's true. So there's a couple different ground options that you can use. And for this prototype, we're kind of somewhat arbitrarily choosing it. And then when we put this on a PCB, obviously we want to crunch this down into ornament size. So we're going to choose the pins that are closest to our elements. And then Silvio is saying, let's see here. Yes, so Silvio is asking if this module already comes pre-assembled and you just have to program it. Então, Silvio, sim, então já vem tudo feito, pronto para você fazer a programação. Então é bem fácil. Então quando a gente acaba de pôr todos esses fios, tudo isso, eu vou te mostrar o código para fazer tudo isso funcionar. All right, so Bounty Hunter is saying Rachel's getting crazy bypassing the load resistor. Oh yeah, we're getting crazy up in here. It's like, oh man, if this is like the degree of excitement, it's not very exciting. All right, so the next thing I'm going to do is put these little buttons in here. So I have festive, red and festive green. So I'm going to put like one over here. I'll put this guy, the little red one here. And sometimes you got to jiggle a bit to get it to fit. Put these guys there. A little close together. It's kind of like the finger size of a 4-year-old, so if you have big old thumbs, might want to space them out a little bit further. I might end up like pushing both of those buttons. All right, and yes, noting the buzzer, I should have a resistor with the buzzer too, but we're like going totally nuts this time around. All right, and so now we are going to hook up the inputs for our buttons to some different pins on our, I was going to say Arduino, but our ESP6288 board. So I can see that, let's see, which pins am I using? I'm using pin number 4 and pin number 14. So we can see where they are kind of like on the pin out here. And yes, you can use other pins. You don't have to use this specific pins. So you can kind of see where they are on the board. I'm just, to make it easier, just gonna kind of like count it up where it is here and then just mimic it on the other side. So it looks like the easiest one here is this 1, 2, 3 from the bottom, 1, 2, 3 from the bottom. Put that guy there. And this guy, if I follow him around, goes to the green button. So Mr. Green, there you are. And I'll go ahead and hook up a ground for him. And some of you are already noticing, like, why should I not put no resistors on the buttons? If you've ever worked with push buttons, you need to put in some kind of pull down or pull up resistor on it. Otherwise, in its unpushed state, and if it's connected directly to the pin, it kind of like doesn't know if it's on, off, and you'll notice that it acts unstable. So by adding a resistor to act as a pull up or pull down resistor, it kind of forces it into either I'm been pushed or I haven't been pushed. So that's the only kind of funky thing. And I'm actually putting together a full electronics Arduino course where we go through all of that in like detail. But for this, the reason you don't see a resistor here is that Arduinos and this board here come with an internal pull up resistor. So in the code, we're going to tell it to just use that. That way we have one less component. But if you are using push pins without like a microcontroller with that feature, then yes, you do need to specify or put in a resistor that acts as a pull up or pull down resistor. So we're going to do the same thing with this red button here. I'm going to like ground this little guy here. Oh, gotta put my eyeballs on. Like that. All right, so we're kind of mimicking here pretty good. And let's get the input signal wire going to this red button now. This one's a little more difficult. We gotta count more. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. All right, my head got in the way there. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Right there. Hopefully I'm counting right. If this doesn't work, then the first thing we're going to look at is my really bad counting. All right. I'm going to get this guy. Oh, I bent him. Get this guy into our switch. And again, we're also going to use the internal pull down or pull up resistor for this. And you'll see that all in the code once we kind of like go through it. So I think we are almost hooked up. I think the last thing is our little buzzer. And so for our buzzer, normally you want to put a resistor here on the positive end, just to prevent any kind of current overloads or current spikes. But we're just doing a quick, does it work prototype. And depending on what we do with it, I'll decide on, what the heck resistor size we're going to use. So, these aren't great for putting into boards. I should probably trim back some, but we'll see if it works. So negative to negative, and I went ahead and hooked the positive up to a digital pin. So that way it can send a signal to our buzzer. So let's see here. We got them copied, and we saw that the one of them works. And let's hope that the second one will work. And not only that, once it works, will they talk to each other? So if I push the LED, will the LED on this one just light up and that one's not going to want to talk to it? Like, are they not going to be friends? So we're going to have to figure all that out. So for that, I want to head over to the computer and let's look at how this code, this very basic code that we're going to build upon works. So I am going to transfer you guys. Oh, what is going on? Running out of disk space. No, we can't run out of disk space. Knock that off. So let me shrink this and get my code up here for you guys. And as I move, I am also going to move the mic. So it's probably going to make some banging noises a little bit. So pardon that. And all right, time to update this computer because I'm getting all kinds of like, listen, this is going wrong, that's going wrong. It is time to like update. So I'm going to scooch myself and move this mic here. So, rather than putting you guys on intermission or on hold, I'm just going to, there we go. Kind of go here and let me just flip this guy around, flipping him around. So it's a little further, but hopefully you guys can hear me and I have your commentary kind of like going over there where we were. So looking at this code, you can see, it just starts with the very, kind of first line here where I talk about what this project is. We're making an internet controlled Christmas ornament. Anything that's grayed out, the program kind of skips. It's just for our own personal notes, And as we build this thing, I'm going to include more notes here, additional instructions. So that way, if this is your time, your first time doing it, you have more help in things as you move along. And so here we get into this first bit here, which is the Adafruit IO config. So, or configuration. One of the things that you're going to have to do to get the items, your two things talking to each other. So you have the Wi-Fi capability on your board, but you need some kind of cloud service. So I'm using a free one. That is like the Gearhead Diva way to go. And the one I'm using is located at io.adafruit.com. So what you do is create a free account, totally free, username, password, that whole deal. And there's a big button that says create feed. So you create feed and it says, what name do you want to give your feed? So let's see here if I can bring up the website. So I'm getting like goodies delivered to the door. That's why like the dogs are going like completely nuts. So let me open up a new window here. And if you guys kind of like bear with me for a bit, let me go to the site and then I'll show you the site here in a bit. I'll add it to my broadcasting software. And then, so you guys can kind of like get an idea of what this is. So let's see here if I can add this window to, let's see, maybe I had added stuff before. Maybe it'll add it. Nope, that's your guys' chat. That is indeed not it. So let me I'll create a new, a new thing, and I'll just call it Adafruit. Yeah, I know you guys can't see any of this. It's like, what is she doing? All right, there we go. There it is. So, boom. All right, so let me move this guy down. And let's put him kind of like over here. So this is like what the website looks like right here. And so all you would do is, you can get started for free. You just create a free account here. And then once you're signed in, you go into this IO tab right here. And, it just bumps me to the home page because I am not logged in. And in that IO tab, you're going to be able to create your feed. So when we're done here, I'm just going to set up a step-by-step for you guys so you can see how it's done. And let me just kind of like shrink this and get rid of this and, go back to our code. So by creating this account, you're given a special like secret key, and so you can always find that in your settings. Like a lot of social medias have secret keys that if you're hooking and doing APIs and things like that, you can find. By creating an account, you have two key pieces of information, your username and your secret key. So you're going to have to remember those or copy and paste them over. So here I have a couple instructions for the gift sender. So say you love this project, you want to do it yourself, you want to make these gifts and give them out to your friends. So these are your instructions because you are the gift sender, So you're going to create your free account at io.adafruit.com. Does not have to be this website, can be any website of your choosing. This one's free, And so then once you're in there, you want to create a feed by clicking the create feed button and you can call it whatever you want. I called it command because it's going to be receiving commands and sending out commands. So command kind of sounds like a good way to call it. And then in the following code, you're going to insert your Adafruit IO username and key in this section. If you are not the gift sender and you are the gift recipient, here I'm saying skip this section. Don't even look at it. So here's where we have our username. My username is Gearhead Diva. It's public. You can look it up on the website. My secret key, I didn't put it here. It's a secret. So if you were editing this file, for me it would be Gearhead Diva, and then this string is kind of long. You would copy and paste your string here. So now you're done. Now the Wi-Fi configuration, it needs to be able to talk in your home Wi-Fi. And so this is for your gift recipient, instructions. So insert your home Wi-Fi network name and password. So I would enter my network name and I would enter password. Now, those of you that maybe don't have a password for your network, very bad, don't do that. But, say you were in that situation, don't delete the line. Just go like that and leave your double quotation marks like that and you're good to go, but I'll put that password. There we go. And I hope your password isn't password. Those are two very bad things, not having a password and calling your password password. So let's see, I got a couple comments here. So Silvio is saying the words is very gray and hard to see. I'll tell him as to why. Então, Silvio, algumas palavras são cinza e difícil de ver porque é comentário. Então, quando você tem comentário no código, ela aparece assim, meio apagada, porque o aparelho, ele não lê nada desse comentário. Ele só lê essas palavras e esse código que aparece mais escuro. Então, comentário é só pra gente saber o que fazer. Eu tenho instruções se você quer copiar o projeto, você tem mais ajuda para saber o que fazer. Então, é meio difícil ler esse comentário. Então, eu tô tentando explicar o comentário. Então, nessa parte aqui de cima, você abre uma conta grátis nesse website aqui. Então, é um website que coleciona toda a informação, aí manda a informação pro aparelho. Então, é completamente grátis. Aí quando você abre essa conta, eles te dão, aí você tem o teu username aqui, aí tem uma chave secreto e você acha aonde tá os settings, aí você põe é um monte de números e letras, você põe aqui. Então, depois, para funcionar com o teu Wi-Fi aqui, você põe o nome do teu Wi-Fi, aí o teu password aqui. Agora, se você não tem password, você tem que deixar branco. Então, faz isso. Você tira. Mas deixa esse tracinho aqui. Então, eu vou pôr de volta o password. Então, tudo isso é explicado no comentário. E eu vou pôr esse código no Discord para todo mundo poder download e usar. All right, US people, I am back. Now, we went over the cloud services that you have to set up and your configuration. Now, I guess if you're sending this out to family, probably the easiest thing to do is, can you imagine them trying to open up this thing? If your family's technically inclined, then that's fine. But I would probably just call them up and ask them like, hey, what's your network name and password? And that way I would use that code for their device, so then you got to keep the devices straight, whose network is on what device. So probably I would call them up and just fill this out for them, load it onto your ESP6288 Ornament and just send it out to them so they don't have to worry about any of this like compatibility for the board or anything like that. So once all that's done, you're going to include a whole bunch of libraries that when you're setting up your device, it kind of forces you to do. It'll say, hey, you're going to need these libraries. Would you like to install them now? And I'm like, whoa, kindly, yes, sir, I would like to install them now. And you click the install button. And so here we're already including the username, the key, everything we filled out. Rather than having to fill it out all over again, we've already kind of set constants for them. So this is the main program start, and you can see that it's, grayed out, just a commentary here. And we have a couple more libraries we're including for the board to get it working. And of course, for our cloud data services that we're using, Adafruit already made a library for the Arduino software, making things easier. So not only is it free, I also picked it because it's just got already some degree of compatibility. So we don't have to figure all that out. And then, and Silvio gets it now, why some of the letters are grayed out and why, some of them aren't. So then we get into how we have our pins set up. So if you recall, we put our LED on pin 15, one of our buttons is on pin 4, and the other one is on pin 14, and then the buzzer is on pin 5. So then we set up our button states. And for this, I'm kind of going over the main blocks rather than going through every single line. I think I've reserved a lot of that for a dedicated course in coding, and putting together some simple project. So here, if you recall, we're setting up our cloud feed. And I said, call your feed command. And so if you call your feed something else, just make sure that you change it to whatever you called it in this line. So then we get into kind of like our setup code. So we want to set up the button pin as an input, and use that internal pull-up resistor. And same thing with our button 2. We want that to be an input. It's going to be receiving, am I pressed, am I not pressed? And we're going to also use the internal pull-up. Now, we want to set the LED pin and the buzzer pin as outputs. You know, the LED is going to light up. It's going to be receiving an output, and the buzzer's going to buzz. So you have to tell the board which is which. Here we are connecting to our cloud services. So it's just saying to connect. And you'll notice that all of this code is missing the serial monitor code. I stripped all that for beginners to kind of keep this code pretty compact. Now your serial monitor here is this little, right along up here, and it's kind of like a cut off here. So if I just shrink this a little bit like that, you can see this little thing here, and that pops open a monitor, and you can see I got an error message because I have no board connected to this. So it's just like, what am I monitoring here? So anyways, it pops up a little window that you can tell it to show you the button states. It helps you really troubleshoot. So it's a great tool to have. The final code will have the serial monitor stuff. So that way, if you guys need to troubleshoot, you can pop open that little window and see kind of where the problem is arising. Is it not connecting to your cloud services? Right from the get-go. Then it doesn't matter if everything else is wired correctly. You know that, okay, I need to double check probably my username spelling and my secret key spelling, that string of numbers. So it can kind of start pinpointing you where to go. But for our purposes, let me make this kind of a big vision again. By a little bit. There we go. Maybe a little bit easier to read. And so moving on, so now we have to set up a mechanism for handling the message. So the fact that you press the button is going to make it into the cloud services, and then what? How is it going to handle this information? So we're going to call it handle message. I know, very, very difficult here. We're just going to call it handle message, and then here is waiting for a connection for it to connect to our feed. So again, I'm just going over like the main code blocks and why is it io.status, parentheses. We'll get to that in like a more dedicated course. So now we're into the loop section here, and this is the part that just like loops over and over again, So here I have a note, if you can't read it because it's too light, that this function right here should always be at the top. And because it keeps the client connected to that cloud services and processing any of the data coming in. So basically the code is read from top to bottom. So you definitely want this at the top of your code. So there it is in the loop section. All right. And again, this very basic code, once we're done, I'll get it up on our, Discord. So you guys can start playing around with this. And then we're going to take this code and build up on it. So here next, we're going to grab the current state of the button. But because we're using the internal pull up resistor, normally we have to reverse. Like when you push the button, normally you would say that that's high. If you've done, either putting the, I'm trying to like get into a whole other topic here, but basically because we are using the internal pull-up resistor, we kind of have to say that if you push the button, it's low, but it'll translate high later on in the code. We have to reverse the logic in other words. And same thing with button 2, and it'll say what the current state is, 1, 2, so you can spew out different, like if they press the green button, it does one thing. If they press the red button, it does something else. Then if both are reading high, which means not touched at all, both buttons are unpressed, then you can have something else happen. What we could do is have the ornament maybe just be illuminated white, and that means like no one's doing something with it. And then when they push one of the buttons, it turns red. It turns the red LEDs on. And then maybe when they push the buzzer, instead of that ring, maybe we can have it play a song, or something like that. So you can set something to happen when no buttons have been pressed. Right now we have everything off, just to kind of keep things easy. So let's see. Return if the value haven't changed, then the current value will equal the last value. All right. So then you want to save the current situation into your feed right there. All right. So let's get into more of the meat in potatoes. So this happens, this block of code here happens anytime an input is received into the feed. You know, somebody out there that you gave your ornament to has pushed a button, you know? So then if the command was 1, you know, situation number 1, I set it to activate the buzzer, you know? So it's going to write to the buzzer pin at a frequency of 900, which turns out to be like super annoying. And we're going to have it play for 500 milliseconds. And then it's only going to play for 500 milliseconds, at which point it'll play 0. Like it'll be quiet because it's super annoying. Otherwise, else, you know, or else, then if it's the situation of command number 2, then that's the LED. We want the LED pin to go high for 50 or 500 milliseconds and then to go low. So it'll blink on for 500 milliseconds and then blink off. Now, this is the section of code where you can start getting fanciful with your LEDs. You can use the LED bulbs. You can use the flickering bulbs like I have. Maybe instead of 500 milliseconds, you illuminate it for a lot longer than that. Or you can hook up an LED strip and do some like a cool LED strip design and use those libraries like the FastEd library that we've used a ton of times and make this a lot more fancy. But for prototyping purposes, we're keeping it pretty simple. Like turn the buzzer on, turn the light on. And if we can get this to work, then we can start to complicate things and have more confidence that it's going to work. So here you can see kind of how everything is working. And for now, the only additional thing you have to do is just get on that cloud services site and make a free account. So that's that. And I'm going to teleport us back to the bench to see if this whole thing works. All right. So there, I am coming back and I'm going to move the mic so it might make a noise. Turn your volume down if you have to. There we go. And all right, Mark Troy. Ooh, let me turn this around because it's kind of tough to hear. There we go. And so Mark Troy was saying that he loves the labels that I assign to the actions. Yes, I try and like keep them upbeat, you know, but also if I look at this code in months from now, I don't want to call it like the LED pin cat and the buzzer dog, because then I'll never remember, you know, how I associated. And Merlin is saying, you make coding fun. Oh, wait till we start the tunes. Wait till we start the tunes. So we have all this wired correctly. And I am just going to put my glasses on and double check the button inputs one more time. So that's on the second one. That's on the second one. I think we're good. All right, I think we're good. And I'm just going to push the buzzer ones in. And so the first thing we're going to do is take the data cable and make sure they both have the same code. Now, on my version of the code, the Wi-Fi name and password of my home network is put in. And all right, I thought I saw the stream go down. So the Wi-Fi and password of my home is put in, the name and password. I also have that Adafruit.io account. So Gearhead Diva is in the username and my super secret key is in, you know, that area. So that's the only change from my code from the code that you just saw. So I don't remember which one we built and they might have gotten shuffled. So we're just going to go ahead and do both of them. So I'm going to plug in the first one here. And maybe you saw the light go on there. And so this is the one that's plugged in. And I'm going to upload the code. Actually, let's see if it works. All right, so that one already has the code. And it takes a little bit longer with this device versus Arduino to upload the code. You'll notice that it's like, you know, you're done already. So let's see, make sure it's flipped. These little micro Bs here. All right, so this one needs to have the code uploaded to it. So, and we wait. can rest this little guy here. And, oh, it's still like at 25%, if even. So, Merlin is saying, are these tunes MIDI? Yes, they'll be MIDI. So what we're going to be doing is someone out there took like a piano and figured out the frequencies for each of the piano notes. So what we're going to be doing is looking at sheet music and composing our own Christmas song. You know, we can pick our favorite. So again, jump on Discord, or you can leave it here in chat. It's kind of like a lot easier to just see it on one platform, but definitely mention what your favorite classic Christmas tune is. You know, hopefully something, you know, public domainish so we can play it, listen to it, and try and figure out how to program it onto our piezo, you know, I'm saying it fancy, piezo buzzer here. So yes, it's going to sound very, very, you know, MIDI. So we're also going to learn how to read some sheet music here too, people. Lots of skills involved. All right, so I think finally it is done. Now, because I don't have a battery, we're going to leave this connected to the computer. So let's see, we know this one's working. Let's see if this one works. If I push, okay, so that's over Wi-Fi and all right, that is super annoying, people. So what I'm gonna do now, and I'm gonna back you guys up. What am I gonna do now is back you guys the heck up. Oh yeah, oh look at that, microphone's right up in your face. Let me move that. All right, here I have a fresh new board too. Oh, to make even another one. So if you guys are in a rush, I'm pretty sure you can just make something like this and turn it into your family and friends, you know? If they really love you, they'll appreciate your effort. All right, new subscriber, Richard Southard, welcome to our, like, this is more like Island of Misfit Toys gifts, you know, than it is some of the nicer gifts. So let me see if I can, oh, here's a USB here. Now this is power only, it is not data. So I'm just powering for now everything off the computer because I haven't figured out exactly, oh, that's pretty tight in there. I haven't figured out exactly how I want to power these things, you know, like what kind of battery situation I want to use. So I'm going to delicately kind of move this guy over here. Make sure the end is correct. Yeah, so for right now, these prototypes are very like Island of Misfit Toys. Like, they're the rejects, you know, not very Christmassy. Just like Bounty Hunter Breaks pointed out in Discord. He's like, oh, or either Discord or Facebook or on social media somewhere. You know, he said, okay, just one LED, you know, we got to make this thing more festive. And I agree. That buzzer is like killing the Christmas spirit. So this is like Island of Misfit Toys or like the Grinch version of a, you know, Christmas ornament. But if your family really loves you, they'll tell you that I love it. Ron Shanks is here. He's saying, good afternoon, Rachel. Good afternoon to you too. You have walked in on the best part or worst part if this doesn't work. Now, theoretically, they're both powered. If I push the red button on one of them, then both reds should come up. And I never hooked up my little light for you guys. That's why we're all like, you know, programming blind here. And if I push the buzzer, double annoyance, both of them should go off at the same time. Oh my gosh, this is how I treat you guys for the holidays. This is just awful. It's like, Rachel, you're usually the Grinch. Total Grinch here, you know? All right, so let's see if it works. I'm gonna push the light. None of them are working. All right. Okay, so now I'm remembering we're in the garage, so I don't think my Wi-Fi is very good up in here. So did you see them both go off? I'm going to move them here. All right, so now they're talking to each other. So if you gave this ugly one here, I don't know which one's the uglier one, probably this one. Give it to someone. You keep the pretty one, give the ugly one. No way, right here. So if you gave this to a friend or a family member and you changed it to their home network, that's important because if you accidentally leave yours, it's gonna have no way of connecting to that other person's home Wi-Fi. So be sure to change that. So if they push this button on theirs, you'll see yours light up. So you know they pushed the button and they're sending you some Christmas cheer. You know, and again, you know, I did step it up. This is not a solid red. I put in a flickering red LED. All right, so will it be the same for the buzzer? You might want to turn your volume down in case. It's super annoying when you get them in stereo. Knock that off. But maybe we can jingle bells, jingle bells. No, that's pretty terrible. But terrible for the ugly buzzer, but awesome in that, okay, guys, we got this working. This prototype totally works. So theoretically, if, pretending we're 2 more streams in and this is transformed into a beautiful ornament, you can give this away, go ahead and program the board for your recipient so they don't have to open any code, they don't have to do anything like that. All they have to do is, 1, get one of these power cords, which if you have a phone, you probably have one of these lying around. So get one of these power cords and power it that way. You can make it a tree ornament, which is kind of annoying to have that cord, to plug in and it's hanging on your tree. That's kind of annoying. Or you could make it a little tabletop thing where the person can put it on their desk at work and always see if you or other family members are sending them some Christmas cheer. And then it'll always be powered. Option number 2 is, if we look at the pins again, is you want to find one called like VN, which is the yellow one at the left bottom. You'll see a VN. So that's the pin that you're going to plug a battery into. And so, again, this board can tolerate, I think, 3.3 to 3.6. So I know a lot of people use like a 3.7 LiPoly battery. They're rechargeable. They're a little more expensive, but yeah, they are rechargeable. You can get kind of a small one. They put out some good amps. Otherwise, you can power it this way through a socket that you plug in, an adapter socket. A wall adapter, and it's okay that it's getting 5 volts because it's got an onboard regulator that'll downgrade it or, downsize it to 3.3 volts. So, for all of your pins and things. And it's the same thing is true with the battery, so up to 5 volts, you're okay, but knowing that your components are only ever going to get 3.3 volts. So if you have more powerful components, you're going to have to upsize that voltage to get it to work. So guys, I think that this was a huge success. We have a basic code that connects to our home Wi-Fi, that also connects to that free cloud services site that I told you about, how to connect them. Then we have all of our components plugged in and they're working, talking to each other. We have our lights illuminating, maybe a little bit slow here in the garage, and we have our annoying buzzing. And when I do it on the other one, it's one thing I forgot to test. Yeah, we got both of them working, and we got both of those buzzers. So for next stream, guys, we are going to concentrate on the buzzer part. We're not going to spend too much time on the lights. We've done a lot of like LED hooking up, programming of different like crazy patterns and things like that. So we're pretty well versed in the LED realm of things, and it works very similar to an Arduino board. You see that we're even using the Arduino platform. If you don't like the Arduino platform, this board can also understand Lua, CircuitPython. You can hook up a Raspberry Pi to it. For this particular project, like Raspberry Pi would be kind of overkill, so something like this is kind of small, compact. It doesn't have to handle a lot of processing. So using something like Arduino is perfectly fine. Plus, it's a language that we've been kind of slowly building on. So all this code will be available so you guys can run out, build your own. I believe I even have like a supplies list at the bottom of the YouTube link. But today I will be updating the website. You'll find this very same project with all the supplies you need so you can start grabbing everything. So the only thing that you'll need to buy more of is little LEDs, depending on how crazy flashy you want your ornament to be. Then once we have this playing, our absolute favorite song, which by the way, get on Discord and vote for your favorite song, because if we do, Jingle Bells or something, and your favorite song is, Let It Snow, you can complain. You gotta vote, you know, to get it in. After that, our third and final stream, we are going to be converting this into a pretty ornament. You know, like maybe something like a PCB Christmas tree. And I was seeing if I had any PCB boards just happening to lie around. I may have some here that we can take a look at. So I have these guys, and I've ordered much bigger ones because I think we're gonna need a bigger board. We're gonna need a bigger boat. So you can see kind of the ones I have. The biggest board I have is this guy right here. Now imagine that we can take a Dremel and make like a little Christmas tree pattern. You know, just cut out a Christmas tree. But you can see from the size of this board, I'll do it on this one so you guys can actually see from the size of this board. I mean, that component's gonna take up a lot of room. We might be able to do it and then put like all the LEDs on the little branches and stuff. And then, I don't know, maybe the piezo buzzer can be the base, maybe? And that can be, you know, your ornament. And then we have to still figure out, you know, kind of power for it. But just in case, I have ordered a much bigger board. So this can make a bigger ornament or some very cool little tabletop thing that you do that people can take into work and kind of enjoy some holiday Christmas cheer. So that's kind of where we're going with this. And I'll be posting up the next stream here shortly so you know the date for that. And in preparation for that, you guys have got to get your music production, you know, in gear. I'm going to come all like, yeah, I'm ready to produce some music. I'm a music artist. I produce very annoying piezo buzzer tunes, MIDI tunes. It's quite hot right now. It's killing. It's killing on the charts. So it is our duty to create the next platinum, very 8-bit sounding song. So vote for your favorite song. And we're gonna code and compose this together using real sheet music and the code that somebody, or a library that somebody has painstakingly taken the time to match up the frequencies that match to certain notes on the piano. So music production hats on for next time, people. And thank you so much for joining me. I know you guys are all busy for the holidays, but take a little time out for some coding, and I will see you guys next time. See ya. Oh yes, and get on Discord. Get on Discord.